Guys, this is Mark Goldberg from Mark Vlogs Watches. Although I'm happy to be with you today, it is a sad day, a sad week. As most of you probably have heard by now, we lost a real good friend, a real gentleman, somebody that has been known to most of the watch collecting universe, and that was Blueshirt Buddha. He died yesterday. Valen Greymoon first, fist, respectos, as always. So glad that you've joined me and the rest of you gentlemen. So here's the thing, guys. You haven't heard from me much lately, but a lot has happened as a result of Blue Shirt's untimely and unfortunate passing. So I kind of will catch you up a little bit on me, what's going on, what's happening, why you haven't seen me too much. But first, let me greet some of the people flooding into this room right now. Valen Greymoon, as always. John K., who says second is best. Second Fistos, John. William Rizzo, Da Machine. Kevin Hawthorne. Bera Vader. William Rizzo. Red Dust. And bunches of others. Guys, Blueshirt Buddha. You know, I probably will not be doing the call to arms for Blueshirt again. Maybe this is the last time. Or maybe, and Ron the Shrink has joined us. Thanks so much for coming around, Jean-Claude Biver, our wags. But the call to arms, you know, anytime Blue Shirt came on my stream or any other stream where I was a guest, he would greet me and I would greet him. And this was how we did it. I would say, Blue Shirt Buddha! And then he would say, with that thick Long Island, New York accent, Mark Goldberg! And this was how we greeted one another. And I'll tell you what, a truer gentleman there never was. You know, there are a lot of characters in this industry, and for whatever reason, the watch collectors, we are nuts. You know, we are not well. Such a variety of crazy people have I met, you really wouldn't believe. And I suppose I'm not the least among them. But the trolls, the crazy people, are way more compensated for by the nice guys, the decent guys, the guys who you wouldn't expect. You know, in the last year, we lost Adricos. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the show. We lost Andy Hunter, and now we've lost Blue Shirt. Now, Andy had an on-camera persona that could be bold and prickly and arrogant and definitive, and he dared you to take him on. Knock this chip off my shoulder. I dare you. But that wasn't Andy. Andy was a family man. Andy had grandkids and cousins and aunts and uncles and a wife and children, and he just adored them so much. And he was the sweetest, nicest, funniest man. You know, if you ever had anything to do with him off the air, he was just pure generosity, pure sweet. His on-the-air persona was different. And that was the thing about Blue Shirt. Blue Shirt didn't have an on-air persona and an off-air persona. Blue Shirt was always Blue Shirt. With some friends, he formed a watch channel called Watch Talk with the Punters, and it was probably the best live stream that has ever been consistently done about watches, because they researched those watches, they talk about watches, they curated the conversation so that it revolved around 3 specific watches on each live stream. And then, of course, they were ready, willing, and able to go ahead and answer questions from the audience. They had guests, Clyde, myself, lots of guests. But that was the thing about Blue Shirt, is he was always good and kind and decent. He supported me in my dispute with Archie, which we need to talk about. We need to talk about that in a more meaningful way now than we really ever have before, just due to what happened, because we lost Blue Shirt. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to back it up a minute. the Cardinals, if you will, the OG, the original Archie crew, we have a WhatsApp group, and it morphs and changes a little bit from time to time. But it's all the OG guys in there, myself and Clyde and Tan and Jen and Doc BBW, the Costco chiropractor, and there are Ron the Shrink, and we are constantly shooting the shit in there, guys, and talking, and of course Blue Shirt was in there with us also. And when we got to disputing with Archie, when bad feelings crept into the relationship, and when that whole crew fell apart, I'll tell you what, Blue Shirt took my part in it because he knew I was right. He knew that Paul had wronged me. And we got to talk more about that. This is not a bag on Paul. Matter of fact, Paul and I have made it up as a result of Blue Shirt's passing. And I'm going to talk in more detail about that in a minute. But the reality is that Paul Pluta, he messed up in a fairly significant way, for which, by the way, he just recently told me he was wrong, and he apologized over and over again. And I accepted that apology. And he was wrong, but maybe I overreacted. I'm not sure, but I could tell you this much. Blue Shirt took my part. Blue Shirt took Clyde's part. Blue Shirt left Archie the way we did. But I was angry, and Clyde was angry, and we had a lot of nasty things to say, which I guess, in retrospect, I regret. So, Paul, any bitchy nastiness I did with you, I do regret. And I'm sorry for my part in that also. But I can tell you this much. Blue Shirt, although he took my part, he was always the voice of reason. He just always told us, let it be. Don't talk bad about him. Let's move on. Let's talk about the watches. Let's be friends. Let's not focus on the negativity. Let's focus on the positive. And that's the kind of man he was. As Archie discussed on his live stream last night, Blue Shirt had adversity in his life. He worked for a multimedia communications company, and he was just coming along in that career when the pandemic hit, and it essentially shut that company down, and he lost his job. And then he was unemployed for a while, but he did a lot of things to try and make it and to support himself and his family, delivery driver and other things. But above all, what Blue Shirt treasured were watches. He loved watches. He didn't have tons of money, but he had tons of taste. And he just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And eventually, this is not known to the vast majority of you guys in the peanut gallery, or as we call you, the punters, our watch friends. Most of you guys didn't know this, what I'm about to tell you, because he didn't want you to know it. But Blue Shirt, Bruce, his real name was Bruce, but Bruce was hired at a Torno, at an authorized dealer, and he got to play with watches, and he got to sell watches, and he got to talk to watch collectors and watch consumers. He told me how excited he was the day that he sold his first watch after he started there. It was a big deal for him. And it was really the start of something beautiful in his life, because the man reached 50 years old and hadn't quite found that one thing that just suited him, that made him want to get up in the morning. He was just such an optimistic, wonderful man. Truly he was. And so he went to work at Torno. Now, the reason that he asked us not to talk about that was, it's an authorized dealer. It was his profession now. He's learning the ropes and establishing himself. And the last thing that he was going to need was every watch guy, in the world calling him to try and get a Submariner, or, whatever else you would have wanted from them, because Torno, among other things, they sell Rolex. And he offered to see if he couldn't get me a watch, and he did offer me, I forget what he did. They had something there that he could sell me. I don't remember what it was, but I turned it down. for the following reason. It wasn't a watch that I was craving, but I knew that there would be a collector who really wanted that one. Let's say it was a Milgauss. I don't remember if it was, but let's just say, the blue shirt called me and he said, "Hey, I could sell you a Milgauss." And I thought, there's 100 guys would like kill to own that Milgauss. I'm just not one of them. So I told him no, and I know he found somebody else, and he sold that watch, and he was just so pleased to be able to connect a collector with a watch. I asked him about other watches, and it was very shortly thereafter that he told me that Rolex had informed Torno that they couldn't ship watches, that they should sell to their local market, right? So, and I understood that. I think that we're hearing that from most of the ADs today. But that's really the reason why Blueshirt didn't want to put out there what he was doing, because you guys know what you would have done. You would have called them, and Torno would have been getting hundreds of phone calls from out of state, with people going, "Fikers, I gotta get a James Cameron. I gotta. I love it. You know this?" And he obviously needed to avoid that. But let me tell you that Blueshirt loved the YouTube community. He did. He was the best friend you could ever have. He was always so upbeat. And even when he got sick, he told us about it. He was forthright with us. He told us what was happening. And it was dire. We knew that it was aggressive. We knew that it was going to be a real uphill battle. But let me tell you, he confronted his battle with a particularly aggressive cancer. He confronted it with such dignity and elegance that it was stunning. It was stunning, because it should have been very, very scary. And I don't know, in his place, maybe I would just be panicky and shut down, and they just need to drug the living crap out of me, But no, he talked us through it, and he was a very vocal participant. He had a good sense of humor. He was a funny guy. I said he was sweet, but he was still a New Yorker. Oh my God, he was probably one of the best New Yorkers I've ever met, because if you're not from the United States and you don't know New Yorkers, they're a tough breed of people. Let me tell you what, I always said it's because there's too many rats in the cage. It's not that much landmass, and there's a lot of people living in there. So they get, angry with each other about parking spots and space in the store. And did you look at me funny? Yeah. What do you got to say about it? And he was never like that. But he had a sense of humor, and a robust one. And, so he'd poke fun at things too, but he just confronted his end of life battle in a way that was exemplary. I mean, truly, truly inspirational. Blueshirt quit communicating with us a couple weeks ago, and we knew he hadn't passed, but I knew at that time that meant he was more than likely in the final phases of his fight. I don't know more than that, guys. I hope that he was made comfortable, and I would assume so, that he was made comfortable and went with family and dignity, as we would all want for a friend like Blueshirt Buddha. Truly a wonderful guy. So I got this news yesterday, and I got it along with an invitation. I got it from Paul Pluta, who, far from making any kind of joke or far from making light about it, seemed as genuinely moved as a Paul Pluta could be, because Paul is I'm sure he's got ADD, bipolar, he's got a couple diagnosable things that make him a little, not always in charge of what he says or thinks. Which is one of the reasons we find him so entertaining, is because you just never know what craziness is going to happen. But he texted me, and he texted me that sad news along with a link. And I knew what that link meant, because Paul and I haven't communicated much at all for the last 6 or 8 months. A little. We did a little. I mean, once in a while, it was to talk shit to one another. I'd text him something nasty, or he'd text me something nasty. Or sometimes I'd got a new watch and I just wanted him to know. I don't always know if I had good motives. Like when I got the gold Submariner and I wanted him to know, I sent him pictures of it and he sent back a compliment, but I think my motives were not up to Blueshirt Buddha's standard. My motive in texting him those pictures was a nya, and that was beneath the dignity of somebody like Blueshirt. He would not have approved. Although Blueshirt definitely approved of the blue dial gold Submariner. His Bluesy was his favorite watch. I think it was his favorite watch that was ever created anywhere by anyone ever. But when Paul sent me that sad news and that link, it just took the fight out of me. It just took so much time had gone past since whatever wrong Paul committed. If you want to know all about it, well, go on and YouTube and look at Archie Luxury live stream. That's the channel that Paul broadcasts his live streams on. And look at the one from yesterday, which in the United States would have been November 10. And I appear somewhere along with Thomas Burnett and a bunch of other people, including Clyde, at about the 15-minute mark, somewhere in there. But you could see, you could see what happened. I recommend you watch that if you want to know what happened. But the key point was, it was time to put it aside. It was stupid, and it was just time to put it aside. It felt like it was the end of the world. I have this weird habit of when I feel like the world is ending, I reach out and try and, right whatever wrongs I have hanging out there. I remember it when the pandemic hit. I remember texting Crappy and telling him I hoped that he was okay and well, and that whatever went wrong between us was stupid. Because originally Crappy had been a fan of mine, and then I got nasty with him, and he got nasty back, and then he got really nasty, and I gave up, and then I got revenge, and it was stupid. It was all stupid. I think because Archie Luxury thrives so much on drama, backstabbing and drama, and because that works so well for him, many of us fall into it, because Archie was our entry for a lot of us into the watch community. But I think we have to remember there's not a lot of people can do backstabbing, dramatic nastiness as well, as Archie, and I'm not one of them. So I had that reach around, to Crappy. That didn't really go too far, but I was glad I did it. And then when Blueshirt died and Paul reached out to me, I took it as an olive branch. I took it as an olive branch, and I went on and we made our peace, which was a good thing. And I think it took took the wind right out of Clyde's sails also, because the rancher, he's always been irritable with Archie. The rancher has probably been Archie's truest and best friend in the entire world. We have Clyde to blame, by the way, for the fact that Archie live streams daily. Did you know that Archie used to live stream once a week on Fridays? And then with the pandemic, Clyde said, hey, there's a lot more super chats to be had. You should do this for an hour every day. And so Archie said, gee, money? Money. So Archie began to live stream every single day, which just eventually got on Clyde's nerves. And I laughed at Clyde. I still laugh at Clyde, because in some respects, Archie hatched from an egg someplace, okay? But Clyde really sat on that nest and nurtured that chick and brought it along, as has John Suckerhorn, who's really helped Archie a whole lot, and apparently Bear Clooney as well. There's just been people who have aided and abetted, this criminal. So then Clyde said, hey, Archie, you got all this competition now from these idiots that you brought on who left you. You should start live streaming for 3 hours and take all the oxygen and all the super chats out of the air for these guys. And then that's what Archie did that too. And now Archie is doing like 3 hours, 7 days a week. It's almost like a real job if you think about it. That's like 21 hours of money collection per week. I mean, the man is almost working for a living. Who could have gotten Archie Luxury to work for a living if not Clyde? So we went on, I think, for Old Lang Syne, but when we did, something happened. You'll hear it. If you listen to Archie's stream from yesterday, you'll hear it. And what happened was, I think we all started to feel the good feelings that we had when we were a team. When this community wasn't just fighting with itself, when this community wasn't just cannibalizing itself, when this community didn't thrive on, we thrived on good humor, fun, hijinks, shenanigans, but not eviscerating one another and hurting and harming one another. That's what we used to thrive on. And that feeling came back last night when I was on that live stream with Archie. So he and I have spoken a little bit since. And I think what'll happen is Clyde and I will likely go on from time to time. I don't think I can do 3 hours every day. And I'll tell you a bit more about why. I promise to tell you what's going on with me, and I will. But so I don't think I could do 21 hours a week of Archie. The pay is terrible, by the way. The pay is just terrible. But I'm sure I will appear with some sort of regularity. I'll figure it out. And I believe that Clyde will do the same. He has told me that mug rules will now apply because yesterday he came on merely when I sent him the link. Fortunately, I do still have the mug. There are fewer and fewer of these mugs in the world. Bear Clooney threw his into a dumpster and chipped it. So I think that mug has lost its mojo. And I don't remember, I'll have to ask Clyde who else has one, but it's a very special and rare mug these days. And it has the power to summon the rancher. So I shall use it sparingly, but wisely. Appearing the entire time on the Archie Luxury Show has been Doc BBW, deep within the morgue at Costco. He makes his appearances there. And Doc's also on our OG varsity Cardinals group. But I confess, the way Paul and I were fighting and separated, it probably drove a slightly unfortunate wedge between BBW and myself. And he's a guy I just truly love, always have. And I was never, how to put it, I don't know. I don't want to overstate the case because it wasn't like I felt like he betrayed me by going on Archie, but I felt like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so, well, isn't that stupid? It was. I guess what I'm saying is I'm just glad to be realigned with my friends and a team of people who are there to support a mentally ill man making his way with no real talent and no real job. So I expect you will see a little bit more of us over there on the Archie Luxury channel. Now, my channel. I have not made a ton of videos lately. If you are a regular subscriber of mine, you'll know that. The reason has been since the pandemic, dog training went nuts. And I'm dealing with lots of texts and phone calls and questions about people who have dogs that need training. I wrote the book, which is the avatar for my avatar right now. It's called The Art of Training Your Dog. As you know, my first book was called Let Dogs Be Dogs. This one's called The Art of Training Your Dog, the newer one. And they're both available wherever books are sold, wherever in the world you are. You can get it on Kindle or iBooks, or if you're somewhere civilized, you can get the hardcover of either of them. But what happened is I began doing what do you call it? I began doing Zooms for clients all over the country because, they got my book and they had questions. And so I started doing Zooms, and that just has chewed up a lot of my time. I do enjoy it, by the way. So if you have something that you need in the way of a dog problem solved, you should get my book. And if that doesn't do it, if you have more questions, you can do a Zoom with me. You can contact me at my Watch Channel email about that. It's markgoldberg8 @gmail.com. But the long and the short of it is I've been working a lot. Unlike Archie, I have a job, and it has kept me extremely busy. And so I just really haven't had the wherewithal to make a whole bunch of watch videos. If I were going to do a quick fist watch check right now, I would tell you that I'm wearing an MTG 1000B, which is a G-Shock. And the watches that I'm wearing most regularly these days include that. It's good for working because it's a G-Shock, but you can't hurt it. But this one is fully loomed. And the one thing that drives me crazy about G-Shocks is when you have to push the button to read the time because the hands are loomed, but the indices aren't loomed. Stupid. You need loomed indices. And they finally did it on a series of watches. So I have that G-Shock and I like it. The loom lasts all night. And then I wear my Seiko Tuna, which is the newest iteration of the Seiko Tuna. It's called the Seiko Bluna because it's got a very dark blue dial and bezel. And it's stupidly accurate, incredible. So I wear it's quartz. And before you have a heart attack, what's wrong with a serviceable jeweled quartz movement that self-regulates every 10 seconds and goes, ooh, I'm a nanosecond slow. Let me speed it up. Every 10 seconds it adjusts itself. It's amazing. Anyway, I do love that watch, especially because the Seiko Tuna, especially this latest iteration of that watch, you will never find a watch with better loom. I challenge you. What has better loom than a Seiko Tuna? If you know what that is, put it in the comments because I don't know what that is. But I wear that, and I wear the gold sub when I want to feel fancy. But I'm a little limited where I want to wear that watch. Like I don't want to work in it because it's soft, and I don't want to bang it into a dog crate. Let me think. I'll wear it when I'm going out, but actually, I think I'll probably wear it maybe a little more now that we're in winter or fall here in Chicago because, I'll be wearing long sleeves. I've just been reluctant to wear it out in short sleeves where it's sticking out because I think it says mug me, if you're walking around in a solid gold Rolex, I think it says mug me. Whereas, if you're wearing a jacket, well, it's there, but you're not, flashing it all around. So that is the topic for a whole video, I think. Where can you wear your gold Rolex? Yeah. But what I want to just wrap up here today is it's about Blueshirt and how we're going to miss him. He was really probably the most gentlemanly individual that I have known. And I've known a lot of characters, a lot of fun people, a lot of crazy, wacky, goofy, awful some people. I mean, you wouldn't believe, guys, when you do what I do, which is just make videos, you put your personality out there, and sometimes it attracts problems. I mean, I've had to contact more than one ISP to report, email harassment, like, weird, crazy, mildly scary stuff, and I've had to, I don't recommend you start a watch YouTube channel unless you have a thick skin, because although I've met wonderful people, there's always a few crazies out there, right? Anyway, Blueshirt Buddha was not one of those. Blueshirt was the best of us. He was by far the best of us. And in his passing, I think the upshot of Blueshirt's passing will be a better sense of unity among my end of the watch community, because there were some friendships that got strained, that got ruined, that fell apart. And Blueshirt stood with me because he believed I was right, but he never had the vitriolic, nasty side that came out of me. And so I think I should use him more as an example. If I'm a gentleman, then we, which I barely am, but what I recognize is you do wrong, wrong is done to you. It's just like the prayer, forgive me my trespasses as I forgive those who trespass against us. And I'm Jewish. Go figure, but I know the Lord's Prayer. Well, guys, I want to thank you for spending this time with me. A salute to Blueshirt Buddha. If you'd like to put your recollections of this very, very good man in the comments, I will appreciate it. We can kind of, use this as a memorial to Blue Shirt. And with that, I'm going to sign out with the Blueshirt Buddha call, and I'm just never going to do it. I'm just never going to do it again, but I'm going to sign off with it now. Hold on. Blueshirt Buddha. Okay, I'm teared up. That was weak and stupid. Hold on. I'm going to grab my ball sack and do it right. Hold on. Blueshirt Buddha.